Gene-based vaccines, or mRNA vaccines, are the most destructive and lethal medical products that have ever been used in human history.
With some states looking to ban mRNA technology, is this really time to start trusting Pfizer with cancer? Hello there, you awakening wonders. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, we stream every day, well, Monday to Thursday on Rumble, and if you get Rumble Premium, you get additional content from us, and you get access to the kind of information that governments around the world and their bureaucratic affiliates would like to deny you. For example, during the pandemic, what were we telling you? Be careful of mRNA technology. Be careful of Big Pharma. Think twice before you trust your government or their filthy propaganda. Well, it turns out now that Montana are looking to ban mRNA technology. Meanwhile, Pfizer are continuing to amplify their message using their extraordinary profits to purchase a Super Bowl commercial telling you, hey, if you liked what we did with COVID, wait till you see what we're going to do with cancer. Also, Anthony Fauci appears to have some extraordinary involvement in the body parts of dead babies, and my country, the UK, are having a COVID reflection day. So much to consider. Let's start with that Super Bowl ad. How can you help us now, Pfizer, without tumours?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. I'm rocking my peers, putting suckers in fear, making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom, explosion.
Mawkish, unearned sentimentality. Any parent that's spent time in a children's hospital will know that indeed children's hospitals are inhabited entirely by heroic, sometimes broken children, sometimes children that are going to die. Often as a result, one might contest because of the negligence of big food, the negligence and sometimes malfeasance of Big Pharma. I'm not claiming that Pfizer caused children to die, but it doesn't seem like that long ago, does it, that Pfizer were inviting the government to insist that children take vaccines that might have detrimental side effects? There's certainly been a great upsurge in cancer since the pandemic, and in particular turbo cancers. So why would we sit back in the middle of a Super Bowl and allow Pfizer to tell us that they are the advocates of injured children? Whether you're talking about Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, where my son went when he had a heart condition, or the Great St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, institutions that care for children are great bastions of our culture, demonstrating the very best of science, expertise, and compassion. The idea that Pfizer would seek to mobilize that kind of imagery and sentiment disgusts me further, particularly when there are states like Montana banning mRNA products that Pfizer were reductive and maybe even duplicitous about. We'll soon know, won't we? Because apparently all the files are getting released. In a sense, it's like a rebranding thing, because like if your kid's got cancer, you're going to do what you're bloody well told, aren't you? Because you're in a state of absolute desperate and terrible despair. And whether or not you can directly condemn Pfizer or other institutions and corporations that benefit from sick children, you have to recognize we're in a time of radical review where the Maha movement, which not ultimately, but to some degree, means Bobby Kennedy, Dr. Oz, Jay Bhattacharya, Marty Makari, Kali Means, Aaron Siri, a group of men and women that are focused on the health of Americans and are making a clear and deliberate point that American health is in decline because the interests of big pharma and big food and big agriculture are being put ahead of the interests of human beings. I don't want to see no corporation that benefited in the pandemic or from any other kind of human sickness coming out like they're advocating for sick children. It is offensive to me, particularly when Montana are looking now to ban mRNA technology, and if they do it, you can bet other companies will. And when the saints of the pandemic period, like Anthony Fauci, ain't as clean as we were told. Pfizer, we're fighting for 8 cancer breakthroughs. No, you're fighting, as always, to make more money. That's what they will always do. That doesn't even necessarily... It does make them evil, but it doesn't make them necessarily directly and uniquely culpable for that evil. It just means they've got no business pretending to be anything other than, well, a business that benefits from human sickness and from perpetuating human sickness rather than curing it. How do we know that? Because we know what Pfizer are, we know how the pharmaceutical industry behaves in a general way, and we know because of the pandemic period that we're all in a time of considerable reflection, and at least in my country, that has been officially sanctioned. The government, the British government, announces COVID-19 Day of Reflection 2025. A UK-wide Day of Reflection will take place on Sunday, the 9th of March. Do you remember that bit where they told us all to get in their houses and then had voice coach lessons if they were Keir Starmer, or parties if they were Boris Johnson? I'm talking about the last 2 prime ministers, or 2 of the last 3 prime ministers of my country, 2 of whom flagrantly broke COVID rules. Do you remember when we trusted our legacy media and big tech and social media when they censored true opinions? Do you remember when there was that massive wealth transfer? Do you remember when people that work from the government went to work for Big Pharma? So many reflections. Remember when we weren't able to talk about yellow card or adverse events? So many reflections. Remember when the people rose up and rejected government authority and demanded that commercial enterprises and corporations face the reckoning? A true reckoning and righteous justice. No, we didn't do that, did we? No, we didn't do that. But perhaps that will happen because Montana are on the verge of banning mRNA technologies. Here's a testimony of a family physician who believes that mRNA technology is the worst and most detrimental medicine in human history. But Pfizer are still looking for a worse one. 8 by 2030.
My name is Christine Drivdahl Smith. DRIVDAHL-SMITH. I am a family physician in Miles City. I have no conflict of interest. I am a volunteer board member of the Montana Medical Freedom Alliance. Gene-based vaccines, or mRNA vaccines, are the most destructive and lethal medical products that have ever been used in human history. I am asking you to support this bill banning gene-based vaccines so that we can halt continued harm, disability, and death of our citizens. Gene-based vaccines include the COVID-19 shots, and there is one other RSV shot that was approved for this past year for older adults. There are ongoing trials for influenza and bird flu, and there are dozens more in development.
I'm gonna knock you out!
The COVID shots were rolled out just over 4 years ago under Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA. This has been renewed multiple times. The last renewal was in December of 2024 and extended the EUA until 2029, which also extends the liability protections. Under EUA, the FDA may allow use of unapproved medical products, including experimental products. Further, the regulatory procedures do not apply to the EUA products, which explains why the FDA has not withdrawn these dangerous vaccines. By the end of 2024, there was over 38,000 deaths reported to the VAERS system, with a known underreporting factor of 31 to as much as 100.
Look at that brave family physician telling it how it is, using facts and data to provide us at last with a truthful narrative. I wonder whether that will be reflected on in the UK's Day of Reflection on COVID, or what we'll really reflect on is leaving things basically the same. No wonder radical populism is on the rise across the world, because institutional bureaucracies such as the British government, or indeed the pharmaceutical industry, are under much deserved attack because in some part of the technology that enables us to have this conversation right now. And because of this technology and because of independent media, we know that this sort of information was censored during the pandemic period. And because of that, we don't trust anyone ever again. Least of all, people like Anthony Fauci, who added to their litany of extraordinary extraordinary events on their resume. We can now include experimentation with baby parts, We all now know something went dreadfully awry during the pandemic period, that we overly empowered government and we overly profited the pharmaceutical industry. People will reflect for a long time as to why that happened. And stories like this one and revelations like these show us how wrong we were to plainly and blindly and blithely trust an individual like Anthony Fauci, and remind us that when we see a Super Bowl commercial where Pfizer seek to trivialize cancer and provoke a sentimental attachment between the audience of those commercials and their products, that we must remain vigilant and on our guard, knowing that we're dealing with a power that you might regard as somewhat demonic. Here are the revelations that Anthony Fauci has connections to experimentation with baby body parts, which on his CV ain't even the worst thing. But is it okay to find him sexy?
Implant aborted baby parts into lab animals. Have you heard of that sort of research?
Yeah, we did an analysis a few years ago showing that over 90% of experiments with using human fetal tissue and putting them involved animals were funded by Fauci's NIAID.
Great. Fauci then was funding experimentation on animals using baby fetuses. I'm struggling to think of anything more appalling. But perhaps when you look at anything in microscopic detail, it becomes somewhat disgusting. I found it a little bit disturbing the way that lady was feeding that dog during a House Oversight Committee hearing.
Do you know where they're getting the aborted human fetal tissue?
Is it true that lady is feeding aborted fetuses right now to that dog? Well, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's only tissue. Nothing matters anymore. Anthony Fauci's a great guy. Just trust the science.
A lot of it is happening at colleges and universities that have affiliated hospitals that perform that procedure.
Madam Chair, I think we need to look into that as well.
Crazy days at my college. Oh yeah, what were we doing? Getting high, sleeping around. Mostly experimentation where we gave aborted fetus parts to animals. Okay, to each their own. Who am I to judge? Crazy, crazy kids. So there you have it. The reckoning around the pandemic continues with revelations that many states are contemplating whether or not to ban mRNA technology, presumably because of the inexplicable and often masked damage done. Pfizer yet continue to propagandize entire populations into believing that they solely exist to benefit children, when you can think pretty easily of several instances where their actions and profits have been detrimental to children, and where the overall purview of the pharmacological industry requires perpetuating sickness. Why is America sick? Because globalist economic models demand that Americans be kept sick. That's just what I think, though. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. What will you be doing on the UK's Day of COVID reflection? Hopefully reflecting on the fact you can never trust authority, then you have to empower yourself and awaken now. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Remember, we stream every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Rumble. On Thursday, we do our show, Stay Free Oracles. It's well worth joining me, Neil Oliver, and Lara Logan for that. And consider becoming a Rumble Premium member. If you use my code BRAND, you get a discount, and you will get Break Bread with Russell Brand, which is never less than exciting. More important than any of that, though, if you can, please stay free. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free. Hey, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed that, why not join our community on Locals? Once there, you get unfiltered access to our raw, uncut, peculiar content, early bird privileges, to special guest interviews with people like Candace Owens, Jordan Peterson, Vandana Shiva, and many, many more. Bonus behind-the-scenes content. Join me for my journey into Christianity, and even come to live shows for free as a member. Plus, you'll be joining an incredible, like-minded, ever-expanding community of awakened individuals just like you. So join us now. Click the Locals link in the bio. Stay connected, and if you can, stay free.